There is definitely a downside to being exclusively DS games. This is one of them. Myst is a fantastic game. It plays into some of my biggest weaknesses. Interesting areas, great ambience, hot sociopaths, and my biggest weak point, lore. I love lore in video games. It's why Dragon Age is one of my favorite video game series of all time, because of how massive, compelling, and interesting the universe BioWare created for it is. And although you can get a lot of it from in the game by searching for codex entries and exhausting NPCs' dialogues, there are also quite a few books and comics that further deepen the lore of the game. But we're not talking about Dragon Age, and I'm gonna move on before this becomes an I love Dragon Age and here's why video. Myst has that same sort of feel though. After I finished the game, I was left with so many questions and so much intrigue that I immediately started googling Myst lore and spent far too many hours reading up on the lore the other games in the series bring to the table. It made me want to play the sequels. Getting back on track here, why is Myst a downside to being exclusively DS games, you may ask? Because the DS version of Myst is literally the worst port of a game I've ever had to play. I mean, if you don't know how to get around Myst, you're not going to be able to beat this game without a guide. Shut up. The DS version seems to have been dumbed down to fit the smaller screen, but in doing so makes some of the puzzles not so obvious. The biggest examples being the map in the library and the crystal puzzle in the Rime Age. But we'll get to that one. The map appears empty aside from the white outline of the library and watchtower, but if you're anything like me, then you read the note on the ground telling you to count the switches on the island, so you went and did that first, exploring the place before going anywhere near the map, meaning that the whole map was already fleshed out with detail and making the unassuming circle even harder to distinguish as actually important, especially since nothing else on the map is interactive. Apparently, in the PC version of the game, the little circle flashes to let you know that it's special, so we're already off to a good start if this game is gonna make me feel like a big dumb stupid idiot. Getting around Myst is also really difficult, as I didn't play the PC version because the only compatible version for my computer was $20, and I already spent $10 on this version. I don't know how hard it is to move around, but because of the small DS screen, tapping a direction will sometimes bring you to a different area than you're intended, or in the case of the giant trees, sometimes won't even register. I seriously didn't even know this thing existed as an area until I used a walkthrough because of how specifically you have to tap to get it. And even then, it took me a few tries each time I made my way over to it. And again, I don't know if this was in the original version, but if you tap the wrong way, instead of bringing you to the next screen, it brings you to the second screen over. So instead of going to the entrance like I wanted, it would bring me over to the fireplace instead. The audio is also really bad. And at first I thought it was just the static from the red and blue books, but when I found the green book, I realized no, it's not just static. It's so compressed that even headphones didn't really help me that much. I just ended up Googling the cutscenes, but I really shouldn't have had to. Subtitles at the very least would have been a nice addition to this version because of the audio quality. Despite these issues, I tried to make sure it didn't ruin my experience too much. The atmosphere on Myst and the subsequent 4 ages is phenomenal. The way the 4 ages, Channelwood, Mechanical, Stone Ship, and Selenitic are described in the books in the library don't really prepare you for how empty, lifeless, and terrifying the abandoned worlds truly are. Even on Myst Island itself, there were times where I was hesitant to go someplace because of how dark and empty it was. This game managed to make me feel alone, helpless, and scared multiple times just from the visual and audio alone, and this was coming from a vastly weaker version of the game. I can't imagine how well it conveys this feeling on the original, but I'm really starting to regret not playing it. Now, let's talk about the story. You are the stranger, a random person who has stumbled upon the Book of Myst and found themselves on the island after accidentally interacting with the linking page that brings you there. The linking page being a sort of teleportation device to bring you to the age written in that book. From there, you are left to your own devices. No hints, no tutorial, just isolation on a strange island you've never seen before. Advancing forward on the island, you find a note to a woman named Catherine from her beloved Atris. Count the switches on the island and use them on the imager on the docks. Cool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 switches. Easy. What's an imager? This is an imager, and I didn't know how to use it until after I beat the game, so let's just go do something else. There are 2 colored books in the library, each with a loose page next to them. What does the blue book tell me?
Yes.
Ha! Person in a book! And so, we are introduced to the only two apparent living people on the island. Sort of. In the blue book is a seemingly crazed man named Aknar, who seems not good. And in the red book is, oh, hello! Sirrus, as he introduces himself as, is an intelligent, well-spoken sociopath. And I love him. His cool, calm, collected nature in comparison to Aknar made me 1,000 times more drawn to him, and made me believe him a bit more than his less than composed older brother. Just from the introductions alone, I knew he was the one for me, the one I would help free. Later on, you find the two brothers' rooms. Aknar's is full of crazy torture devices and malicious items such as skulls, weapons, and general bad vibes. Sirrus's, on the other hand, has lots of sweet-looking decorations littered with gold, fine jewelry, wine, and coins. Fancy upholstery, expensive-looking furniture and paintings. His room screams royalty, and, as my name suggests, I am all about that. He also may be addicted to something, but we're just gonna tuck that away and forget about it. I'm all in. Sirrus has stolen my heart. Anyways, Sirrus wants me to find the red pages and ignore the blue ones. Easy peasy, my dude. I'll be back with more pages. You keep being your beautiful self. And Aknar can just, stay over there. These two dudes are your only company throughout your journey, and although not my first choice in friends, I welcome the small interactions I get with them, so I don't lose all my sanity to the vast emptiness of everything else. Still not knowing what to do, I enlist some help from, a friend, and learn about the circle I can interact with on the map in the library. Geez, sure would have been nice to know if there was some sort of indicator. The white line turns red when I line it up to a spot in the world, so something must have happened. After checking a few places, I find the top of the tower of this elevator has moved and given me a key and a location that this key goes to. Rinse and repeat for each of the areas to get you to progress through the game. The first age I ended up visiting was the Selenitic Age, which was probably a big mistake. First, getting there was ridiculous, not just because you have to have a fine ear for tuning, but because moving the switches to the right note was incredibly difficult because of how small the screen is. At the age itself, it was boring and dull and probably my least favorite age. I hated moving around because the tiny screen, and everything looked the same. When I finally got to the end, I had to go through a garbage dark maze that I got lost in for an hour because I wasn't understanding the audio cues. I just hated it, and the book in the library talked it up too much for what it actually was. This was actually such an off-putting, confusing mess when I played it the first time that while I was trying to recall it for this video, I thought they were two different ages. Going back to capture footage, I understand it a bit better, but first impressions mean everything, and my first impression just wasn't good. On the plus side, despite it being my least favorite, it wasn't I'm done playing terrible, just frustrating terrible. After returning the found page to my beloved Sirrus, whose words I can only make out as don't grab blue pages, only red. Like, honey, it's okay, my heart belongs to only you, no need to worry, shh. I grabbed the key to the mechanical age and delved into the clock tower, which I totally knew the answer to, but just kept messing up every time because of the sloppy DS handling. After arriving into the world itself, we get the first glimpse of who Aknar and Sirrus are as actual people. And as I said earlier, Sirrus's room is a lot more inviting and sane than the terrifying death room that Aknar's is. Why on earth would anyone trust him, especially after encountering their rooms? Dude who's a little greedy, or dude who has more weapons than actual furniture? Anyway, the main puzzle is at the top of this elevator. Literally. And, what do I do? I managed to move the fortress I'm on to the South Island, but no matter what I do, I can't move it to another island, or get it back to its original place. I want off this ride, please! After an embarrassingly long time trying to maneuver this mass of gears and fiddling with the levers with no understanding of what they're actually doing, yes, even after playing with the toy in Aknar's room, I managed to grab the 4 symbols and return to the first island to enter them into the panel. Moving on to the third age, I found myself in Stone Ship, which is a bit too literal, as in it's a literal ship wedged in stone. There's something a bit too eerie about this age. Back in the library, this age was described to have a small, bustling community budding on it, so where are all the people? At the very least, where are the 3 boys from the story? Something is wrong. I explored my way through the age, raising the water levels to access different areas, such as the bottom of the lighthouse and 2 more of the book boy's rooms, again with the deranged sense of decor from Blue Boy and Grace style and security from the love of my life. From the less than savory older brother, I also find a torn page with half of something that seems important. It alludes to the switches back on Myst Island. I jot it down as a reminder and make my way to the final area, the bottom of the stone wedge ship. And this place looks gorgeous, and presumably looks even more amazing when it's not been compressed. It really makes me wish I had played it on PC first, but I've already succumbed to my fate as DS trash. The final age to explore is Channelwood, and the library back on Myst suggests that it's full of ape-like inhabitants. But when I got there, I was greeted by an abandoned, empty, and practically destroyed treetop village. What happened to all of the villagers? Where did they go? These worlds never seemed that big, so they couldn't have migrated. Proceeding with caution, I find my way through the winding walkways up to the village and explore the boys' rooms. I managed to find the other half of the torn page after rummaging through some drawers and finally get a full story. Flip the 8 switches, then return to the one at the docks and turn it off to get a hidden page. Keeping that in the back of my head, I return to my beloved with what I thought was the final page he needs to escape his prison. When I get there, Sirrus tells me about one final page hidden behind the fireplace that requires a certain code from a book in the library to get to. Easy as pie, my lovely butterfly. He warns me to not touch the green book that's also there, because if I do, I too will become trapped like him and his brother. I get into the hidden compartment and find the last page, a blue page, and the aforementioned green book. Curiosity gets the best of me, and since none of the books actually link me instantly, I decided it's safe enough to at least see what's on the other side, and I met with a man. A very confused man who introduces himself as Atris, the same Atris from the note at the beginning of the game. He warns me not to trust his 2 sons, that they tricked him into being trapped in this book, and that in their greed for power destroyed the ages I had explored, including the inhabitants, explaining why they were all empty. Then use the 2 prison books despite their father's warning not to, thinking they would hold more resources to quench their thirst for power. He begs me to return with a missing page from the green book, and to not touch the red and blue pages underneath him. Now, if I were a lesser person, I would grab the red page and return it to Sirrus. But I'm in love, not an idiot. I follow the instructions from the torn page and find the hidden sheet locked away in a compartment on the switch at the dock. Ignoring my true love and his less than favorable brother, I return to Atris and enter his book. I find him at a desk and hand him the page, where he makes a quick return to Myst to take care of business, presumably dealing with his traitorous sons. He returns to give me his thanks, and although it isn't much, I'm free to explore and make home all the ages I have explored thusly, and that I can explore any that I might find elsewhere. Okay, storytelling aside, this is where I got really pissed off. In the original, you save Atris and you win. That's it. But in this version, there's a 5th age. It's even bragged about on the back of the box. But it's hardly anything to talk about. It's hardly anything at all. After doing a little research, I found out that a lot of stuff in this age was cut to fit the DS version. In the original Real Myst version for PC, after finishing up with Atris, you can go back to Myst and explore. Besides seeing what Atris actually does when he gets back, burning both the red and blue books, you'll always be in my heart, Sirrus, I'm sorry things couldn't turn out differently, my love. You find a blue book on the ground explaining rhyme, and giving hints to one final puzzle to actually get to the age itself. This doesn't exist in the DS version, and instead, your only screen after leaving Atris's company is the rhyme book and the linking page. Once you get to the age, there isn't that much to do. After defrosting the room, you get into an elevator that brings you to a place where you can play with a pointless Aurora Borealis maker that literally looks like nothing on the DS version, then read a book describing Sirrus's and Aknar's obsession with this age before finally making your way to the final and most garbage puzzle I've ever had to deal with. Match the colors and crystals up to the page Catherine leaves. Simple, quick, awesome. I figured it out pretty quickly. But in the PC version, you can click on the base to change the shape, and the crystal itself to change the color. Once you're finished, you click on the red button at the top and it'll show you a little picture. If you get it wrong, it'll be a bit fuzzy and sometimes show you something else instead. So you at least know you're getting somewhere. But in this version, tap on the crystal to change the color. Okay, done. Easy. Simple. How do I change the shape? It isn't tapping on the base, screen is too small. I even held it for a second and nothing. Tapping on the red button doesn't seem to do anything either. What do I do? Oh, You have to hold the crystal for 3 seconds for it to change shape. Why does it take so long? 3 seconds might not seem like a long time, but to think, oh, I should just keep holding onto this thing with no signs of anything happening, it's way too long. And with how small the screen is, it doesn't even register sometimes. You also don't get any fuzzy, semi-working screens when you tap the red button with an incomplete answer either, making you wonder if the red button is even working. Finally complete the puzzle and you get nothing. This looks like nothing. Apparently it's supposed to be a screenshot of Riven, which honestly doesn't make any sense at all, because Riven never came out to this console. Why was this age even included when so much of it was cut? Did the DS version really need this age? An extra 5 minutes of tapping and broken puzzles? In fact, I googled how to do the final puzzle because I honestly thought the game was broken. And so did a lot of other people! The DS version of Myst was released in 2008. The Wii had been out for 2 years, why didn't they just port it over to that instead? With the Wii's motion controls and a large TV screen as your play area, it probably would have been a much improved experience. Considering all of the re-releases this classic got, I feel like not porting it over to the Wii was a missed opportunity. Stupid. For anyone wanting to play Myst for the first time, just get the Steam copy. Going console for this will probably ruin your experience of an otherwise amazing game. Oh yeah! You can also beat this game in like 2 minutes. All you need to do is flip the 8 switches, grab the hidden page at the first switch, go to the fireplace and enter in the pattern, then go meet up with Atris. The world record is currently held by someone named Viovis at 53 seconds, and it's pretty awesome watching them speed through, especially when they enter the pattern into the fireplace. At least it is to me. Go play Myst. Not this one. This one. This video should have been out like a week ago, but I came down with Conflu after PRGE, and I'm still recovering from the cough I got from it. Hopefully it wasn't too obvious in the video. I should probably see a doctor. Probably.